Hello everybody, welcome back. It is me, your old pal Orpheus, with another adventure here on Orpheus Plays. What's wrong with my finger? My finger seems broken. There we go. Anyway, hi, how you doing? It's another great day for murder here in the world of Blade Sorcery, and today I want to talk about something that it's kind of a... I'm not going to talk about anything specific, you'll see what I mean. How do you survive in a world where things are going crazy and you have some things like anxiety and PTSD and all these things going on? If you've seen my chat. Anyway, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second. I hope you're doing well today, wherever you are. Whether it's day or night, doesn't matter to me, as long as we're having some fun. And we are in survival mode here in the arena. 3 things come out. I choose one, and everyone that comes out to greet me will be very sad. So let's see. We have a rice knife or whatever that is. It's also a comma, I think. We got a shield. You could do a little Captain America action or a rusty cleaver. That's a tough one. I think I'll start off as Captain America. Because why not? Let's do our first traditional slow motion something of the day. We'll see how this works. What? Come here. What is going on? Did that work? It did. So, with that out of the way, let's talk about today's topic. Okay, so this is kind of a, whoa, if you've seen some of my stuff, or, if you know me personally for some reason, I have a lot of things going on with, mental conditions that could make life a little challenging sometimes. No, stop it. And so what happens is when things happen in the world, I react a little different than other people do to this stuff. And it's, this is the thing where it's like generalized anxiety disorder. I've got PTSD from all sorts of stuff that happened to me in my life. And I've got, the anxiety is really some of the bad stuff. And, of course, there's the autism and the schizophrenia. If you didn't know, I hear music all the time. Unless I'm actively replacing it with something else, right? And so that can get, when things get a little bit hairy, that little thing, can get a little intense. Like I can't shut the music off or I can't change it. It's a little weird. It's hard to explain. But anyway, when you've got something like that going on, that whole condition sort of thing going on, when we're facing times that are a little nuts. Wow, I blew her head off with that. Okay. And so, when you're in a time... I put your neck. Oh. So we're in a time where things are a little nuts. And I covered this in my last episode about, we don't have Batman yet, but we might real soon. Because there's some crazy stuff going on in the world. And so what happens is when something, I'm not going to go into anything specific. You know what I'm talking about. There's stuff going on in the world, all right? And it's kind of different stuff that's what's happened before. And, because of that, you get a little creeped out. And if you're someone that's got anxiety or autism or whatever you're dealing with, you probably know very well what I'm talking about. If you're not someone that has to deal with those things, you might wonder how someone that does, whoa, that was interesting, how someone that does deals with that kind of stress. Because when I read something, or if I'm on social media like X or something, and I see a story happening, let's say it's, I don't know, there's a riot happening somewhere overseas, or maybe it's here, or there's, a gang fight, or, whatever it is. If there's a global issue going on or something, and again, I don't have to be too specific, because we all know what I'm talking about. There's stuff going on, and when that happens, I have something called hypervigilance. Okay, wow, I have something called hypervigilance. And what hypervigilance is it's a stress response. It's a stress response to things in the world. And so, there it is. And so what it turns into, I have, a lifetime of abuse behind me, or under my belt, however you want to say it. I was heavily abused as a child and as a young adult. And just, life has not been very fair at times. And, of course, it's not for everybody. Not all the time, of course, but I seem to have gotten an extra helping of, like, crap in my life over the years, right? And it's settled down since I met Mrs. Orphoeus, you know? Like, that's great. It's wonderful to have some normalcy and stuff in my life, you know? Where'd my shield go? There it is. Hello. Hello, shield. And so it gets to the point where hypervigilance is, okay. Let me give you a specific example of why it turned a little bit into hypervigilance as I got older. In the houses that I lived in growing up, they were pretty large houses, okay? Lots of room, lots of time to hear someone coming down the hallway or coming through the house or whatever it is, right? And so I'd always hear them coming, right? I'd hear them coming down the hallway, I'd hear them coming towards my room, or I'd hear them just walking across the house in a specific way. And when you're someone that's been abused, right? When you're someone that's faced a lot of abuse in your life, you start to notice cues, right? Cues from your parents, cues from whoever the abusers are. You start to recognize patterns from them, okay? And those pattern recognition things kind of happen because you recognize the behavior that they're exhibiting before they're going to abuse you or while they're starting the process or whatever it is, right? You get to this point, ooh, come here, there we go. You get to this point where you have to anticipate things, right? You have to anticipate it so that you can figure out what your best strategy is going to be dealing with it, right? And so in order to get yourself attuned to that, why do you not have a head, bro? Get out of here. So in order to attune yourself to that, you become very familiar with every single sound, every creak, every crackle, every single thing that's an indicator that they're coming or that things are going to go bad, okay? I don't know what's going on with this guy. I'm going to beat him to death. Anyway, so there's these cues that you pick up on. And so the hypervigilance starts to exhibit itself when you have that combination of cues or tells. And you get to the point where you might put stuff in the hallway that creaks a certain way or that they'll have to step on or something like that. It almost becomes like you create a security system for yourself in whatever way you can do that. And part of that is to recognize all those symbols and those signs and the, whatever is going to happen. Well, when you get older, if it's bad enough, and when you get older, it continues to manifest itself. Why do I now have headless people? What is happening? Anyway, so when you get older, how that exhibits itself, how that presents itself in your life, is by a series of ways that you make yourself aware. Okay? For me, it is the security of having cameras around my house on the outside, have a couple cameras inside. I have defensive measures all over my house. I've got all sorts of crazy, skills. I've got skills, a certain set of skills, but I've developed skills over the years for like self-defense and for homesteading and all sorts of things like, the typical prepper stuff, right? I kind of lived a large chunk of my life with that, and even today, when I get a chance, I will buy an extra case of water or an extra, thing of emergency food or just something in bulk because I have to be prepared. The cameras are so I can tell every single thing that happens outside of my house. And because of that hypervigilance, I've had the same skill building that I had when I was a child, which is hearing every single thing, understanding every tell outside my house. I can tell when someone's approaching the house. I can hear when the mailman pulls up outside the house, when he drops the mail outside my door. I have tuned myself to these sounds and these, I can hear when specific cars from specific neighbors go by. And they're not neighbors I know, but I recognize, and we're on a main street here, so there's a lot of cars that go by, but I recognize every single one of them, okay? I mean, if I'm listening, right? So, how else does that manifest itself besides a hypervigilance? Well, when you're sitting there facing a world that can get a little crazy, or you read a certain news article, right, that's like, civil unrest has broken out in a city near you, right? When it's someone normal, like you might think about like, oh, we gotta stay, vigilant, gotta stay out there and make sure that we've got our supplies ready, and people face that as like a normal people, quote unquote normal people, or people that don't have to deal with this whole mess of things, they'll just kind of be like, yeah, I'm gonna watch the news, well, if something happens, we'll go over to your Aunt Martha's house, or whatever. And so they have a plan, they have a definite way that they're going to approach it, and they all kind of feel confident with it. For me, it doesn't matter how prepared I am for something. It doesn't matter if I've stocked up the entire spare room with supplies floor to ceiling, toilet paper floor to ceiling over here, just in case, you never know. Things like that. It doesn't matter how many of those measures I take, I'm still going to be to the point where I don't feel safe. Okay? And it's just... So the way that I deal with it is I will go, this is weird. I have something called a freedom drawer, and I've talked about this in one other episode. My freedom drawer is a place in my kitchen. It's easily accessible. That's got all sorts of things in it, all right? So it's got like an expandable baton, and it's got like a taser in there, and it's got... like knives and brass knuckles and all sorts of stuff like that in there. Because the idea is if I'm somewhere near that, I go run into the drawer, pull something out, and I'm ready. Well, I mean, I have other ways we have other ways in my household to defend ourselves, and so maybe I will have one of those more defensive items with me. I have a sword, right? Yes, I trained with a sword. I trained with all sorts of weapons when I was younger, just because, because it was something I could do. Why not? And so one of the things I used to do is I was pretty good with a katana. And no, not like that. I'm not like some weeb that bought a sword at the mall or anything, right? I had this sword made for me. I actually had it like forged for me, custom made and everything. And I've got that hanging on the wall, and so, if something happens, I can go grab that thing off the wall, and it's like, that would be the messy option, but, So, it's more than just feeling like I have to have that stuff available. If it's something particularly bad, or it's something particularly close to us, I don't know, I kind of sit there and babysit whatever that weapon is, right? So after Mrs. Orpheus goes to bed, I stay up like, 5-6 hours later. And so I'm sitting there on the couch and I've like literally got like some weapons sitting next to me on the couch. Occasionally look over and smile, But like even that doesn't really give you the feeling that you're safe yet, Oops, sorry about that. But it doesn't give me the feeling like I'm 100% safe. This is also something that I call going into news mode, okay? So I worked in the news for quite a while, in radio. I was a radio and news personality, one of those DJ type, as well as a news person. And so when something bad would happen in the world, and it was often things like hurricanes. Hurricanes are like a fun thing to cover. What the hell is going on? Hurricanes are a fun thing to do, like to cover. Fun, it's relative, because you're always like updating things. You can watch things happen as it happens, right? You can sit there and watch the radar and watch the storm coming, and so when it was something like that, or something like a national emergency or whatever it was, I would go to newsman mode, which is I turn on as many feeds for whatever I can. So like TV, projector, tablet, phone. I have like multiple sources of news and information and streams, all sorts of stuff going on. I monitor all of it. I sit up and I watch all of it. Now, when I was in the news, lady, I'm fighting someone that's headless. What is happening here? Did that do it? Anyway, so when I was in the news, it made sense because it was like, this is research I'm doing in order to deliver this information later. Well, as the years go on, I still do that, right? It's part of that hypervigilance. Something happens, and suddenly I'm on all the sites, watching all the news about it, getting all the information, kind of like almost charting where everything is happening, and like making mental notes and like taking actual notes and stuff. And it's just, now, why do I do it? I don't know. Like, it's part of the coping mechanism that I have for dealing with stressful situations. And, you know, I try things like, I've tried over the years things like, you know, lighting candles and incense and trying meditation, which, you know, quick tip. If you have schizophrenia, it is so hard to meditate. You have no idea, dude. It's like, and now clear your mind. And I've got like, you know, the rave scene from Blade going on in my head, like, and it's just it's always impossible for me to meditate. So what ends up happening is I get, you know, like a house that smells like incense, it's got candles going, and I still feel no different. I'm still freaked out. And so, like, I don't know. I also have medication for anxiety and stuff, and that, you know, that helps. It certainly helps. It took me a long time to find a medication combo that worked for me for my anxiety and the schizoaffective, which, you know, I have schizophrenia, but I also have bipolar disorder, and so the two of those get off my. No, the two of those together turn into something called schizoaffective disorder, and so I have medication for that stuff. I don't take medication for the music, strangely enough. I covered that in another episode. It's basically because I'm so used to it, because I've had it since I was 8 years old. I'm so used to it that not having it freaks me out more than having it. So, I don't know. That's how I kind of deal with things. Why are we stuck? What is happening? We're just going to slowly kill this guy. Wow. Okay, but, you know, I just kind of deal with it in basically any way that I can. Coping mechanisms, a lot of them are just distractions, right? You have to just distract yourself. And here's some tips for you if you're out there in the world and you're feeling some stress with things that are going on. Number one, have someone to talk to. Okay? I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's your mom or your wife or your girlfriend or your husband or your pet fish, whoever it is. You need to express yourself. You need to let out those words, because when you just type these things to someone, like you send a text to someone and you're like, hey bro, I'm really stressed out about what's going on over in whatever city, right? You just kind of go back and forth and you have time to think about and craft every answer, right? When you're in a verbal dialogue with someone, you have to think. You have to find the words as you're talking, right? And that helps you to purge those emotions a little bit, or at least deal with them a lot better, right? It helps you to get to the point where you can express, vocalize those things, get them out there, brainstorm with your friend, right? Get to the point where you can express yourself fully about why it's freaking you out, what's freaking you out about it. You can talk about, you know, what you'd rather do to help, all these things. So that's number one, talk to someone about it. Number two, doesn't really work well for me, but there is evidence that meditation works. So try meditation. It's good. Maybe yoga if you're a person that could, you know, get into yoga, or you like the yoga. It can help you tremendously. You just you want to immerse yourself in the moment. It's a Zen thing, right? Don't think about tomorrow. Don't think about yesterday. Don't think about 5 minutes from now. Think about now. You know, look at something in your house. You probably decorated your house or your bedroom or whatever to suit you. Look around your room. Enjoy what you have. You know, read a book, whatever you can. It's about distraction and coping. You have to find mechanisms that work for you. Because, look, I'm not a doctor or a therapist or anything like that. I'm just a dude that lives with this stuff, right? So I'm just telling you what works for me and what might work for you. So, you know, if it's good, if it works for you, cool. Don't hurt anybody with whatever your coping mechanism is. That's the only stipulation I will give. Make sure you don't hurt anyone while you're trying to chill out. You know, like if you're a serial killer and the way that you relax is by flaying someone alive, try to refrain from that. Maybe find a hobby or something. You know? So, anyway, how do you deal with stress? How do you deal with all of the constant stuff that goes on, especially when it gets a little crazy out there? What do? Do you light candles? Do you listen to music and twerk in front of the mirror, or for your cat or whatever? Do you watch cat videos? I don't know. What do you do? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed that. Just a little fun for me to talk about today, about what it's like to deal with all this stuff as someone that has a lot of challenges when it comes to dealing with stuff like this in the world. Anyway, we'll see you next time here on Orpheus Plays. Be good, do good, and treat yourself well, because you know what? You deserve it. We'll see you next time. Bye!